Welcome back to ASEAN News with me, Vanessa. China strengthened regional cooperation with countries in the East Asian region.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang at press conference in Beijing followed to close off the third session of 13th National People's Congress says China will further strengthen its economic cooperation with countries in the East Asian region. Talk about cooperation among Asian countries, Li expressed his belief that the regional comprehensive economic partnership will be signed as scheduled. As the leaders' meetings on East Asia cooperation held last year, the leaders of 15 countries made the commitment to signing the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership by the end of this year as scheduled. I hope and believe that this commitment will not fail. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, initiated by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in 2012, is a proposed free trade agreement between the 10 member states of the association and the 6 free trade agreement partners of ASEAN such as China, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Australia, New Zealand and India. According to the Premier, China is also working with the two of its close neighbors between Japan and the Republic of Korea. They aimed to advance their free trade agreement development. China, Japan and South Korea are also working closely together to advance their free trade agreement development. The three countries are close neighbors, and we would like to work with the other two countries to develop small cycles within the bigger economic cycles. Li said China held a positive and open attitude towards joining the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, a trade agreement between Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam.
Filipino protests against anti-terrorism bill on Independence Day.
Over 1,000 Filipinos gathered on a university campus to protest against a new anti-terrorism bill that recently approved by the country's Congress. The demonstration was spearheaded by activists and realized at the University of the Philippines on Independence Day. Braving sporadic rainfall, protesters held placards and chanted slogans such as "Junk Terror Bill" and "Activists Not Terrorists." The bill is drew concern from lawyers and human rights activists who fear it used to suppress free speech and harass those who challenge President Rodrigo Duterte. The anti-terrorism bill is approved by the Philippine Congress and currently awaits Duterte's signature before it enacted.
Phnom Penh scientists make vaccine out of mosquito spit to help stop diseases originating from mosquitoes.
Researchers at field laboratory from Phnom Penh are dissecting mosquitoes to extract their saliva in the hopes of potentially tracking not only malaria, but all mosquito-borne pathogens. Jessica Manning said this study is led by a clinical researcher with the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Her team in Cambodia, who believe they could use pieces of mosquito saliva protein to build a universal vaccine that will protect against all of the pathogens the insects inject into humans, like malaria, dengue, chikungunya, Zika, yellow fever, West Nile, myroviruses, and anything else that may emerge. This process will start from the dissect mosquito salivary gland step. We bring mosquito salivary gland to homogenate, then coat it into 96 well plate and incubate, then wash it. After that, we put sera from a patient into the 96 well plate and incubate, then wash it. Then we put the secondary antibody into 96 well plate and incubate, then wash it. For the last step, we put substrate into 96 well plate and incubate. A yellow color will develop for interpretation results. If we see a yellow color in an individual, well, it means that patient has developed antibodies against the protein in the mosquito salivary gland. The Lancet published the initial results of this work with Manning's colleagues, the first ever clinical trial of mosquito spit vaccine in humans. According to the World Health Organization, malaria alone kills more than 1,400,000 people each year. Those deaths occur mostly in poor countries that do not receive as much vaccine research. Manning research is specific to mosquitoes, but is an example of how scientists are broadening their thinking about how to tackle infectious diseases and the new types of tools they are developing.
Singaporean Prime Minister's brother, Lee Hsien-loong, said he had joined an opposition party to compete against his sibling in the coming general election.
The Singapore Prime Minister's brother, Lee Hsien-loong, said that he had joined an opposition party competing against his sibling in a July 10 general election, but that was undecided whether he will run as a candidate. Lee Hsien-loong, the son of Singapore's modern-day founder, Lee Kuan Yew, has been embroiled in a bitter dispute with his brother over his late father's house. He has joined the New Progress Singapore Party for the upcoming election. Lee has criticized his brother Lee Hsien-loong's People's Action Party, which their father founded and which has governed the city-state since its independence in 1965.
Election fever is in the air. The coming general election will be a watershed. There will be no LKY bonus or SG50 to help the ruling party. And there are a number of live issues which are of broad concern, including the CPF scheme, HDB leases, and a presidential election widely perceived to lack legitimacy. I would like to leave you with 3 thoughts. Firstly, the PAP has lost its way. My sister Wei Ling shares this view too. In fact, she said so in a Facebook post in August 2016 before Oxley Gate. The current government is distinctly different from when LKY was PM and subsequently MN. Secondly, it's possible to be loyal Singaporeans, to be proud of what has been accomplished in the past, to recite with pride, we, the citizens of Singapore, to love Singapore, and yet to not vote PAP. Finally, the Progress Singapore Party and Dr. Tan needs our help. We can contribute in many different ways. We can volunteer to help with the myriad of tasks that the party needs to deal with to contest the GE. We can help to spread the word, persuade our friends and family that the PSP is a serious party that deserves their support. And last but not least, we can give generously to help ensure PSP has adequate financial resources to mount a serious challenge. Together, our strong support of the PSP can make a better future for Singapore.
The Progress Singapore Party is led by Tan Cheng Bock, a former People's Action Party lawmaker who shot to prominence by nearly defeating a candidate backed by Prime Minister Lee Hsien-loong in the 2011 presidential race.
The Philippines government postpones face-to-face classes until COVID-19 vaccine is available.
The Philippine government said in a statement it will postpone students returning to schools until a vaccine for a new coronavirus becomes available. In the statement, Briones said that the department is laying the groundwork for a different kind of learning using technology, including radio, television, online classes, and modular learning. Briones said the education of students must continue despite the pandemic. The Philippines has recorded more than 20,000 confirmed coronavirus cases, with a total of 1,000 deaths.
In Malaysia, salons and boutiques reopen after nearly 3 months of lockdown.
Malaysia resumed nearly all economic activity and allowed interstate travel as coronavirus restrictions imposed nearly 3 months ago were eased, further to revive the economy battered by the pandemic. Businesses which reopened included hairdressing and beauty salons and clothing shops, which are now allowed to operate with social distancing measures put in place. I feel happy. I've been waiting for the government to give the SOP to open salons, and I'm happy to work again because for almost 2 months we didn't get any sales, and the customers were always calling asking, when can you open? Because it's been so long, so we have to explain to the customer. So now we're happy. We can start our business again.
Alhamdulillah lah. Should be good for Malaysia lah.
Yalah, berkeluar dengan keluarga apa semua.
We're happy that the whole family can go out, but at the same time, I'm worried. Because of the ease in the movement control order, a lot of people are out, so if everyone can follow the SOP, then I feel it's okay.
Jadi sesak. So kalau SOP semua orang ikut, it's okay lah rasanya.
Abdul Hadi Ali, Sungai Plaza Deputy Center Manager, also said, first day of movement control order to support the essential services like economy activities. The government, however, has said that international borders will remain closed. Entertainment centers such as theme parks and nightclubs, sport that involve close contacts and large gatherings are still not allowed.
As you know that we have been operating even during the first day of MCO to support the essential services like supermarket, F&B, pharmacies. We have 4 pharmacies, and then we have Giants in Singawang. This is to cater for the community in Bukit Bintang. So during the MCO, it's challenging that we are providing and studying the SOP that provided by the ministry. Now we're already in the stage of RMCO. Our staff are already trained and hand-ons on the procedure during the MCO. We would like to assure the shoppers, with the experience that we have during the MCO and during the RMCO, we are providing a safe shopping experience to all the shoppers.
30 children among Rohingya refugees are rescued off Indonesian coast.
Authorities said nearly 100 Rohingya refugees were rescued after having been stranded in a boat off the coast of Indonesia's Aceh province. Police said the vessel found by fishermen was carrying around 94 foreign nationals, including 15 men, 49 women, and 30 children.
Sampai saat ini jumlahnya
Until now, the total people rescued include 15 male adults, 49 female adults, and 30 children. 10 of them are boys and 20 girls.
30 ya, terdiri dari anak laki-laki 10, anak perempuan 20.
Police Chief of North Aceh Regency, Tri Hadianto, told to the reporters that the refugees will be sent for medical checks and registration upon arrival.
Saat ini kita akan melakukan evakuasi, kemudian akan kita lakukan.
We will evacuate them. Then we will bring them to Siam Talira Bayu for health checks, registration, and we will wait for further instruction from the provincial government.
Kemudian kita menunggu petunjuk lebih lanjut dari pemerintah daerah.
Rohingya have made perilous voyages to Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia for years, fleeing Myanmar or poverty in refugees camps in Bangladesh. More than 1 million live in squalid conditions in sprawling camps in the south of Bangladesh, with as many as a dozen people sharing one shelter and scarce access to soap and water in some areas.
Meanwhile, Vietnam lifts coronavirus quarantine in Hanoi commune.
Vietnamese authorities lifted quarantine in a rural commune in Hanoi, 28 days after placing the area under isolation. The Halway commune, a floral and vegetable farming area some 20 kilometers from downtown Hanoi, recorded the place at midnight on Wednesday 2 weeks ago. Officials announced that all 2,700 households with a population more than 11,000 in the commune are free of the virus. Kon Min Tuan, Deputy Director of Hanoi Center for Disease Control,
Filipino doctor Jane Claire Dorado isolates herself at her home after working in a major hospital in the country.
John Claire Dorado has been working at the COVID-19 emergency room at East Avenue Medical Center, one of the major hospitals in the Philippines. When she returned to her home after treating COVID-19 patients at a hospital in Manila, she decided to separate with family in another room with the same house. When she asks for dinner, she receives it in a small plastic tray while maintaining distance from her mother. She takes it to her table and eats with a phone beside the plate. Her family and pets can say hello behind the small plastic window on the foiled makeshift wall of her isolation room.
Before I took the job, I had a debate with my parents about the risky work and why I choose to do it. I told them, this is what we are built for. We can't just stay safe inside our houses. We need to be out there, helping others.
Kung sino man kamag-anak ko yun nandun, lalo syempre yung parents ko tsaka kapatid ko.
Dorado said health workers should be isolated from their families. Her initial plan after being accepted to work at the hospital was to rent an apartment, but her parents insisted she stay at home. Dorado's parents, both in their 50s, are considered high risk because of pre-existing conditions. The 30-year-old doctor, along with a small group of nurses, doctors, and aides, look after all suspected and confirmed COVID-19 patients brought to the emergency room. They also attend other patients in need of resuscitation, whether from vehicular accidents, heart attacks, or electrocution. Health authorities said Philippines had more than 35,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases and more than 1,000 total deaths.
Thai protesters demand truth about missing exile Thailand activist Wanchalalarn Sangsaksait.
Dozens of protesters rallied outside the Cambodian embassy in Bangkok, demanding to know the fate of Wanchalalarn Satsaksit, a Thailand political activist living in an exile in Cambodia's capital, whom rights advocates said had been abducted by unknown gunmen. According to the New York-based Human Rights, said One Chalerm, 37, was bundled into a vehicle in front of his Phnom Penh apartment. We demand other ASEAN countries investigate the Thai and Cambodian governments over the neglection of the fate of Thai exiles, which led to his abduction. At least 8 are the Thai activists who fled after a 2014 military coup have disappeared from Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, associates and right groups say, with some later found dead. The reason I'm here today is that I want to call on the Cambodian government to investigate and issue an arrest warrant for the abductors. Also, I want the Thai government to protect people who are living abroad, whether they are political exile or not. One Chalerm fled Thailand after he was summoned by military authorities following the 2014 coup. In 2018, Thai authorities issued an arrest warrant for him for violating the Computer Crime Act by operating a Facebook page criticizing the military government from abroad. According to a 2015 Thailand media report citing a security source, One Chalerm was among 29 exiled activists accused of violating lèse-majesté laws that make it a crime to insult Thailand's monarchy. Kritsana denied One Chalerm faced lèse-majesté charges. Right groups have accused governments in Southeast Asia, including Cambodia, Thailand and Vietnam, of helping one another forcibly return dissidents and asylum seekers in recent years.
President China says he continues to support Myanmar's leading role to fight against COVID-19.
Chinese President Xi Jinping said Wednesday that China stands ready to work with Myanmar to continue to support the World Health Organization's leading role in the global battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. In a phone conversation with his Myanmar counterpart, U Win Mint, Xi also called for concerted efforts to firmly uphold international fairness and justice, as well as the basic norms in international relations, and jointly win the battle for global public health. He added the Chinese side has donated multiple batches of anti-epidemic supplies to Myanmar and sent a group of medical experts to fight side by side with Myanmar medical workers. The leader China will continue to provide firm support and as much as assistance as its capacity allows for the Asian neighbor in line with the latest needs. President Xi suggested that on the basis to COVID-19 prevention and control measures, the two sides should appropriately advance exchanges and cooperation in various fields and push for positive progress in China-Myanmar economic corridor projects. The Myanmar president thanked China for providing support and assistance to the WHO and other countries, including Myanmar, in their fight against the epidemic. He added the sound cooperation between Myanmar and China is a reflection of two sides' efforts to build a community with a shared future. Myanmar and China will continue making friendships and cooperation in various fields and promote the continuous development of the comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership.
Thailand scientists aims to make coronavirus vaccine accessible to Southeast Asian region.
Thailand's researcher says Thailand's bid to manufacture a coronavirus vaccine is an international effort aimed at making the medicine affordable for Southeast Asia. Kiat Rukshrum Tham, the director of Chulalongkrom's COVID-19 vaccine development, said that the research is in partnership with scientists and biotech companies in North America. Kiat said his aim to create affordable vaccine for the region.
So we say that we just want Thailand and some of the Southeast Asian countries to get access to vaccine. So now we got the agreement in principle that, okay, if you make millions of doses, you can make it, sell it available at cost or whatever affordable in Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, Pakistan, so 7 countries.
The director of Biological Institute Department of Medical Science said, race against time because the number of people dying is increasing every day. The competition in producing a vaccine is high.
The second bottleneck is, let's say it proved that it worked, how the manufacturing facility can make million or billion of doses. That a challenge. So that's why country like us, a small country, that we have to step up and do our own work as well. Because if you wait for 1.4 million population country to get vaccine for you, I mean, you might get only 100,000 doses, but you cannot solve your economic issue, right? That's a problem.
The experimental vaccine from this joint research has moved to the next phase in Thailand, with trials starting to be conducted on monkeys. Government also announced that it plans to have a coronavirus vaccine ready by next year, after researchers at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok successfully conducted trials on mice.
In this year, Singapore scientists started human trials of COVID-19 vaccine.
Singapore scientists testing a COVID-19 vaccine from US firm Arcturus Therapeutics plan to start human trials in this year after promising initial responses in mice. The vaccine being evaluated by Singapore's Duke and US Medical School works on the relatively untested messenger's technology, which instructs human cells to make specific coronavirus protein that produce an immune response.
The most optimistic case is that it's about this time next year that we'll have the fact that it replicates and that it triggers a very balanced immune response, both in terms of the antibody and killer cells. Those are welcome properties. There are many forms of vaccines that are skewed towards making good antibodies, but they don't make very good killer cells, right? And here, I think we have a chance of doing both.
UI is also working on a monoclonal antibody treatment for COVID-19 with Singapore-based biotechnology firm Taichan and will begin safety trials on healthy people this week before testing on COVID-19 patients in the coming months. UI said potential deployment of the treatment could be faster than the vaccine.
The trial will start this week, so next couple of days we'll get into first doses in humans. And then the idea here is that we start with a low dose and then increase until the maximum dose that we would be thinking of giving to humans anyway. And here what we're asking two things. One is, of course, whether it's safe. And because it's a human antibody, we think that the safety profile will be very good because it's, this is not the first time that a human antibody has been given to human. Usually the side effects are very minimal, right? Because we would recognize this as ourselves.
Antibodies are generated in the body to fight off infection. Monoclonal antibodies mimic natural antibodies and can be isolated and manufactured in large quantities to treat diseases. More than 100 vaccines are being developed globally, including several already in human trials, to try and control a disease that has infected more than 8 million people and killed over 400,000 globally. Tiny city-state Singapore has one of the highest infection tallies in Asia, with more than 40,000 cases, largely due to mass outbreaks in dormitories for its migrant workers.
Thank you for today. We'll see you again.